My name is Michelle Key, and I'm a senior at Chadwick School who has an interest in pursuing marine biology slash science with some kind of climate change minor. My target goal is to become some kind of marine biologist or a marine veterinarian in the future. Okay, so on to the first question. What do you specialize in marine biology?
So my name's Liberty as well, just so you know who I am. And I didn't specialize specifically. So I know the education system works quite differently in America and England. So in England, I did my degree in marine biology and coastal ecology. So I have quite an ecological background, but at the moment I'm still very early career and I haven't specialized. So, and I've ended up working freelance. So I end up doing some comms roles, in campaigns roles. I've been a research assistant. So I've done all sorts of things, but I'm hoping to move more into, I never want to drift too far from the science, but I'd like to go into presenting documentaries and things like that.
And then what's your favorite part about being like a freelancer in like the subject of marine biology?
I like the flexibility it gives, and that I get to try so many different types of things. So there's so many different parts about my field that I love, and I get to work in all of those. I love working with people and talking to people, whether that's on a base level, helping people who have no background in it, understanding and getting that baseline knowledge, or talking to people who are, far more qualified than me and learning from them. So it works both ways.
And then what inspired you to go into the marine field?
It's been sharks from day one. So I actually have a book that my dad got me when I was about 4. And every time you turn a page, it's got like a model of a shark in the middle. And every time you turn a page, there's a little bit more, and it tells you about the inside of the shark, and you uncover each layer. So that's what really started it. And from then on, I was basically just a water baby. I like scuba diving, paddleboarding, fishing, anything where I was in the water. And so it just progressed from there. And I always knew that I wanted to do marine biology right from when I was a kid. And I knew exactly where I wanted to do the course and everything. So it's quite satisfying to have done that.
Yeah, like for me when I was younger, like when I only watched like veterinary like TV shows, like I didn't really watch that many like kid shows, which I don't know. I don't know how my parents let me to like free roam the TV, but like that's kind of how I fell in love with veterinarian stuff. And then that's kind of how it stuck with me like ever since I was like tiny. And then I kept just building up and up and up. And then I got to like the point, like think around like 6th or 7th grade, I was like, I have to figure out what kind of like veterinarian I want to be. Like I knew I didn't want to do cats and dogs, mainly because I felt like I love cats and dogs and everything, but like I feel like it'd be way more interesting to work like more exotic animals. So that was the point of just like, do I go with land or do I go with the ocean? And I kind of went with the ocean because my school is close to the coast. So we had gone to like whale watching trips, and our school's mascot is a dolphin. And then we've had like a lot like coral reef lessons, and also like kelp forest lessons. And that's kind of just like made me fall in love with like the ocean. Like I would always be excited to go take the aquarium when I was younger. So that's how I kind of fell into like the marine kind of biology section of my life.
I mean, like what you've just mentioned there about how you got into it in documentaries is exactly why I want to go into documentaries and presenting, because it doesn't matter what background you come from, anyone will watch a pretty picture, and it doesn't matter what age you are, you can be engaged in some way in that. So it's a really good way to get wide engagement from people, and I think that's really fun.
And then what does a typical day look like for you on the job?
So again, it really depends on what I'm doing, because I'm obviously not always doing one specific thing. I mean, most recently, I was working as a research assistant at a power station, which is something you often don't expect a marine biologist to be. But I was essentially, you'd go into the power station, you have to wear the whole high vis, get up, hard hat. And I was there sampling. So there's 3 outlets from the power station I was looking at. And you essentially take those nets, empty them into the buckets, split the live from the dead fish. Unfortunately, there's often quite a lot of dead fish. And you're IDing them, which sometimes is very easy, sometimes is very difficult. And then from there, you're taking standard length, fork length measurements, body depth, weight, any damage to the body. And basically, it's just taking that data on the hour, every hour you assess the nets, and then obviously set the live ones free. So with something like that, it can be like 24-hour sampling. But if I'm working on a film, it can be really non-scheduled work. So you get up at 4 a.m. to make sure you get the sunrise to get a specific shot or if you're filming a specific species, timing things with the tide. So it could be going out diving, or it can look a whole lot less interesting. And something that marine biologists, again, you don't often think about is working behind a laptop, a huge amount of, planning and, for example, campaigns and social media things. The side of what I do is, very much behind a laptop and planning and editing footage. It's always good going out and getting the footage in the first place, but you have to do something with it afterwards. And that often involves hours of editing. So it really can be anything, which I suppose highlights to you and anyone else who's interested in getting into marine biology, all of the different things it can be.
Yeah, like I talked to someone before, they're like being a marine biologist, such like a huge like umbrella term. Like you can go off into like talking of like real estaters or builders and saying like what are the ecological effects and like what kind of land you should buy, because based on the size, based on the sizes and like how like much it could affect the ocean and everything, you should not buy this land or whatever. And I was like, that's really interesting to me because I never really considered that as like marine biology in some sort of way, but it totally does, because it definitely relates to it.
Yeah, it opens up so many different careers, and it's always just good to have like that knowledge. I feel like knowing about the natural world and something we rely on so heavily, and we've got such a big disconnect with that now because our lives appear to be so separate that we forget how much we actually entirely rely on our natural world, and we wouldn't be able to survive without it. We've just put ourselves in little concrete blocks and try to pretend we don't need it sometimes. So yeah, it really can take you in any direction.
And then what are some of the amazing things you've seen / discovered when you're out on the field?
I mean, being a massive shark lover, I've often gone looking for sharks as well. All the research I've been doing has shark orientated. And so I have been on some amazing dives and research boats. Seeing my two most amazing dives were with one with great hammerheads in Bimini, which is obviously 50 nautical miles off Florida. And they had a shark lab there, which I was working at for 4 months or so just before COVID happened. And yeah, one of the last places you can really reliably see them because they migrate there between Florida and Bimini. So that was amazing. And seeing a huge female white shark off the coast of South Africa in a little fishing town called Gansbaai. Really beautiful place, and worked there for about 4 months as well. So those are probably the most amazing things I've seen while working.
And then what are some of the major accomplishments that you've achieved?
I mean, being so early on in my career, it's not like, anything I've done has been absolutely groundbreaking, and hopefully that will come, towards the latter end of anyone's career, and hopefully mine too. I really enjoyed doing a campaign for COP26 that happened. And I did a partnership with a company called, Unilever, which obviously you'll probably be aware of in the States as well, and a smaller NGO called Reboot the Future that's UK based. So they do quite a lot of work together with them. And I was part of the campaign for Nature Day, so answered lots of questions, did a pitch about seagrass, and put together a short video to talk about all the sort of the fact that the marine space is something often forgotten about in fighting climate change. So yeah, I did a focus point on seagrass. So that was something I really enjoyed doing. Has been a highlight so far, but hopefully there's lots more to come.
I mean, accomplishments can be like self-accomplishments, just major accomplishments. I don't think you feel like it was an accomplishment in your life.
Yeah, that was definitely a big one.
And then as we're currently living through a climate crisis, what are some of the major effects of climate change on your specific area of work?
I mean, because I'm not, like I said, any of the research work I'm doing is often on a consultancy basis for a specific thing. So climate change isn't necessarily a part of that. It's definitely, so there's often hot topics in science and research, and that goes across all fields, not just marine biology. And obviously with the way it's warming the oceans and all the effects and implications it has, it is one of those topics that sort of gets shoehorned into things that sometimes it's not always relevant to for the sake of funding. So I must say, in things that I've been working on, it doesn't directly affect it. But as I've said, I worked on things to do with COP26, where obviously that's very much a running theme. And so it hasn't directly affected it, but you can see its relevance in everything I do. So whether that's talking about, the fishing industry or, protecting seagrass, anything like that, there is a slight relevance for it, and it often gets mentioned, but it doesn't necessarily directly affect because I'm not doing specific research on that. So yeah, it really depends on the type of work. It may very much do in the future, depending on what I end up working on.
And then how have your teamwork skills been challenged in your line of work?
In lots of different ways, really. So in some places, I mean, I love working in a team. I'm very much a people person, but it gets tested in lots of different ways. So, for example, when I was working at the Shark Lab, it was you're living as a very close knit team. You live together, you work together. Everything there's very minimal space. So you could be the best friends in the world, but when you're living on top of each other, little things start to become annoying. So that's one thing. On the total flip side, I work for Ghost Network, and our team is very disparate. We're all very multicultural. No one's from the same country. So it does make it a little bit difficult then, because you're, different time zones. I mean, the same way that we are right now, having, it's the start of your day and the end of mine.
Yeah.
So when working and trying to collaborate, have meetings, set things up and organize, can be quite difficult when you're all in different parts of the world. But for both of those situations, it's always worth it in the end, because you're working towards a common goal, which is always exciting.
And then what are some things that your school did to prepare you and support your career pathway?
To be honest, there wasn't necessarily a huge amount of support for that specific thing. Again, I know our education systems are rigged very differently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone always, when you're a kid, everyone wants to support your dreams, and they'll definitely foster that. And if there's any projects, depending on how old you are, you could always orientate it towards your interest. But to be honest, most of that, support and guidance, a lot of it was self-driven until I got to university. And then obviously I'm doing specifically marine biology as the degree. So you get a huge amount of support from, your lecturers and local people, and making use of that network of where you are, because they know so many people and they'll happily, pass on contacts for people. It was, so they're all very supportive in that element.
And then finally, what are some of your favorite marine animals?
I think I've answered that really. My sharks are the go-to. I love, more specifically, I mean, the great hammerheads are a favorite of mine, and also thresher sharks, which I haven't been so lucky to see just yet. I'm trying to think if there's a slightly more unique one. That I love nudibranchs because they're very colorful, and that's always they're like the underappreciated animals of the sea.
Yeah, for me it's just dolphins, because obviously because my school's mascot is a dolphin, so it's just kind of been there for ever in my mind. And also just how really smart they are. Like the videos of I watched a video of a scientist putting a mirror in front of dolphins, and they were able to recognize themselves. I thought that was so cool. Most animals just ignore it, or think it's another animal and start fighting it, but no, they recognize themselves. And the fact they're able to do that makes it really interesting to me.
Yeah, they're super intelligent. And I mean, appreciating any animal for what they are is always great. But, mammals, they're mammals like us, and they do things for fun. So you can appreciate, them playing in the waves. They're just doing it for pleasure. And I think that's quite cool.
Yeah,
to, appreciate our similarities.
Yeah, when you're on a boat, for example, something still ride on the jet water from it. And I was it's so cute.
Yeah. Do you find there's anything that you really want to know about how you'd get into specific fields? Do you find there's a conflict between the fields you want to get into, within marine biology?
I don't know. I don't really know what to expect when I get into college with marine biology. How did you get into your field? What path did you take?
I mean, for us, our college is the middle bit between school and university. Because I was lucky, I always knew what I wanted to do. I just, at university and what they required from me from school, I worked back. And I knew I had to do biology and another science and get certain grades in there. So I did biology, geography, environmental science, and then just PE as an extra. I also did an extended project at the time you could do. And I used that as a way to, also show my specific interest in that area and do a project. I think the biggest things you can do to help you are look at all your potential interests, and they don't have to be the same. Like I said, I'm doing a bit of everything right now, and see where you can get internships or experiences, and do that as much as you can, because in this field, it's very overqualified, very oversaturated. And that's not a disparagement. This is what you want to do, follow it with everything you have. But it will be difficult. I'd be lying if I said to you, I'm employed and everything's really easy. I don't have full-time work. I work when the opportunities come up. And a lot of it is unpaid. And that is the way,
Mm.
and it's a bit rubbish, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
It's really hard, and it requires a lot of, there is an element of privilege with it. I work a bar job alongside. I work on about 10 different projects, some paid, some not, for marine biology, and I still have to occasionally work behind a bar to supplement that, because it's not a well-paid industry until you get to the top, or you at least get more established. And that's something you should definitely be prepared for. You never know, you might have your lucky break very early on, and I hope that for you. But it's something to be prepared for, I think, which is why I say, if there's any experience you can get now, even very early days, in any different field, whether it is in a consultancy or the veterinarian things, anything that you might be intrigued in, just email people and or go there, and it shows passion and interest, and express, if you're happy to work for free for a bit, or if it's within your ability to do so, then that's definitely something that will help you get a head start. If you start doing that early, you'll rack up even more by the time it gets to, how old are you?
I'm 18.
18. Okay, yeah. So definitely like 4 years of that, while before uni, and then alongside it, and hopefully when you come out, you'll have all of the different, the variety of skills that people will be asking for.
Okay. And then, so thank you so much for joining me. It was a pleasure talking with you. We'll end the interview here. Thank you.
I have this strangest feeling, don't know what to believe in. 'Cause every time you touch me, I can't control my body.